I am a successful software engineer who has always been the responsible one in my family. For years, I have financially supported my parents' vacation home while also helping cover my sister Amelia's expenses. I thought I was just being a good son until I discovered a shocking secret that changed everything. A trust fund had been set up for my sister, just her. I was never meant to know. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to see how I finally stood up for myself after years of financial inequality. Growing up as the eldest child in an upper-middle-class family in suburban Boston, I was always taught the value of hard work and responsibility. My parents, Alan and Diana, raised me with high expectations. I was expected to excel in school, participate in extracurricular activities, and eventually build a successful career. From an early age, I understood that my actions had consequences, and I took that lesson to heart. My sister Amelia, however, seemed to live under a completely different set of rules. 2 years younger than me, she was treated as the baby of the family long into adulthood. While I worked summer jobs to save for college, Amelia received shopping sprees. When I bought my first car with money I had saved for 3 years, my father surprised her with a brand new vehicle for her 18th birthday. These differences in treatment were noticeable, but I convinced myself they were minor and unimportant in the grand scheme of our family dynamic. After graduating with a computer science degree, I secured a position at a tech startup that eventually took off. By 30, I had a comfortable salary, a growing investment portfolio, and a sense of financial security that I had built entirely on my own. I took pride in being self-sufficient and financially independent. My parents had purchased a vacation home in Lake Tahoe when I was in college. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom cabin with stunning views of the lake and mountains. For years, it served as our family gathering place for holidays and summer vacations. Some of my fondest memories were formed there, sitting around the fireplace during winter or barbecuing on the deck during summer evenings. As my parents approached retirement age, the vacation property began to become a financial burden for them. My father had made some poor investment decisions, and their retirement savings were not as substantial as they had hoped. Rather than see them sell a place that held so many family memories, I offered to help with the expenses. What started as an occasional contribution soon evolved into me covering all property taxes, maintenance costs, utility bills, and even the homeowners association fees. For 8 years, I quietly paid these expenses, amounting to over $15,000 annually. I did this willingly, believing it was my way of giving back to the parents who had raised me and preserving a space for our family to continue creating memories together. During this time, my sister Amelia's life followed a different trajectory. After bouncing between various college majors, she finally graduated with a liberal arts degree and began a series of jobs that never seemed to last more than a few months. Between employment, she would travel, pursue various hobbies, or simply take time to find herself. Whenever financial emergencies arose, which was surprisingly frequent, she would turn to our parents or directly to me for help. I lost count of how many times I paid her rent when she was short-covered the cost of car repairs or loaned her money for unexpected expenses that somehow never got repaid. While these requests occasionally frustrated me, I told myself that family helps family, and I was fortunate enough to be in a position to provide assistance. My father always seemed particularly sympathetic to Amelia's needs. Even when she made obviously poor financial decisions, he would defend her, saying things like, "Your sister just experiences life differently than you do," or "Not everyone can be as naturally disciplined with money as you are, Rudolph." My mother always, the peacemaker, rarely took sides, but quietly supported whatever my father decided. Despite these dynamics, our family gatherings at the Lake Tahoe house remained special. During these times, I felt appreciated for my contributions. My parents would thank me for making it possible to keep the property in the family, and even Amelia would express gratitude for the opportunity to continue enjoying our childhood vacation spot. As the years passed and my career continued to advance, I took pride in being able to support my family. I was now a senior software architect at a major tech company with a salary that allowed me to live comfortably while still helping my parents and occasionally my sister. I believed that my financial contributions were strengthening our family bonds and creating a foundation of mutual support and appreciation. Little did I know that beneath the surface of our seemingly close-knit family, there was a secret that would shatter my understanding of our relationship and force me to reconsider everything I thought I knew about my place within our family. The discovery happened during a routine visit to my parents' home. My father had been complaining about disorganized paperwork, so I offered to help him sort through his home office and set up a digital filing system. It was supposed to be a simple weekend project, a chance to spend time together while doing something helpful. I never expected it would change everything. As I sorted through folders of tax documents, insurance policies, and property records, I came across a legal-sized envelope tucked behind some old tax returns. It was labeled Amelia Trust with the name of a law firm embossed in the corner. Curiosity got the best of me, and thinking it might be related to the vacation property, I opened it. Inside, I found detailed legal documents establishing a trust fund in Amelia's name. As I read through the papers, confusion gave way to shock. This was not a small fund or a modest inheritance. It was a substantial trust worth $1.2 million set up solely for my sister. The documents outlined monthly disbursements, provisions for emergency withdrawals, and detailed how the principal was invested. My name was nowhere to be found. The creation date caught my eye immediately. The trust had been established 10 years ago, right around the time I had begun helping with the vacation home expenses. My father had signed over family assets, including shares in his former company, and proceeds from the sale of my grandparents' home directly to Amelia, while simultaneously accepting my financial assistance. I was still sitting at his desk, documents spread before me, when my father returned with coffee for both of us. He stopped in the doorway when he saw what I was looking at. The silence between us stretched uncomfortably until I finally spoke. "What is this, Dad?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. My father set down the coffee mugs and sighed. He lowered himself into the chair across from me, suddenly looking much older. "That is something I had planned to discuss with you at some point," he said. "Your sister needs more help in life than you do." "I need more help," I repeated. "I have been paying for your vacation home for 8 years. I paid for Amelia's car repair last month. She told me it was an emergency." My father shifted uncomfortably. "Your sister has different needs. The trust ensures she will be taken care of." I asked if my mother knew, and his expression confirmed she did. When I asked why there was nothing similar for me, his response cut deeply. "You have always been able to take care of yourself, Rudolph. You have a successful career. You make good decisions. Amelia is more free-spirited. She needs a safety net." I wanted to point out that Amelia was free-spirited precisely because she had always had safety nets, always had bailouts, always known that her mistakes would be cushioned by family money. Instead, I asked the question that was burning inside me. Has she been receiving payments from this trust all these years while also asking me for money? My father looked away before answering. "The monthly disbursements are for basic living expenses. Sometimes unexpected things come up." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. All those emergencies, all those desperate pleas for help with rent or car repairs or medical bills that could not wait had been manufactured, all while she had $1 million trust fund generating income. I left the room to find my mother. She was in the garden, methodically deadheading roses, as if it was any other Saturday afternoon. When I confronted her, she gave vague responses about family dynamics and different needs. She avoided meeting my eyes and suggested that perhaps we should discuss it when everyone was calmer. Her avoidance told me everything I needed to know about her role in this deception. Over the following weeks, I tried repeatedly to have an honest conversation about the inequality. Each attempt was deflected with platitudes about family or redirected to discussions about how much they appreciated my help. Whenever I pressed about the trust fund, my father would become defensive and my mother would change the subject. My own investigation revealed more details about the trust. The law firm managing it confirmed its existence when I mentioned I was Alan's son, though they would not provide specifics without authorization. Amelia had been receiving $2,000 monthly for a decade plus, approved withdrawals for what were deemed necessary expenses. I wanted to point out that Amelia was free-spirited precisely because she had always had safety nets, always had bailouts, always known that her mistakes would be cushioned by family money. Instead, I asked the question that was burning inside me. Has she been receiving payments from this trust all these years while also asking me for money? My father looked away before answering. The monthly disbursements are for basic living expenses. Sometimes unexpected things come up, all while I was covering my parents' costs and responding to her financial emergencies. What hurt most was realizing this had been going on during family gatherings where I was thanked for my generosity. Times when my father had toasted to family support while knowing he had secured Amelia's future, but left me to build my own. At subsequent family dinners, I noticed things I had previously overlooked, how Amelia would casually mention new purchases or weekend trips. The property taxes, utility bills, and maintenance costs that had once felt like a reasonable way to support my family now felt like an unfair burden placed solely on my shoulders, while my sister received direct financial support. As weeks turned into months, the emotional distance between me and my family grew. Our phone calls became shorter and less frequent. I made excuses to miss a family weekend at Lake Tahoe. I began to wonder how I should respond to this revelation, whether I should continue as if nothing had changed, or whether it was time to reassess my role in the family financial structure. The answer would come sooner than I expected, triggered by an event that would force me to make a decision that would alter our family dynamic forever. The breaking point came during a summer family dinner at my parents' suburban home. Amelia arrived late, bubbling with excitement about her upcoming 3-week European trip. She described the luxury hotels in Paris, the private villa in Santorini, and the first-class flights she had booked. The total cost was easily over $20,000, an extravagance that would have been impossible on her part-time gallery assistant salary. My father beamed with pride as she detailed her itinerary. He even went to the kitchen to retrieve a bottle of champagne, returning to propose a toast. "To helping family enjoy the best things in life," he said, raising his glass while looking directly at me. Something inside me finally snapped. After months of suppressing my feelings, I could no longer remain silent. "Is that what we are celebrating?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. "The way this family helps each other." The table fell silent. My mother looked anxiously between my father and me. "I am curious," I continued. "Does the money for this trip come from the trust fund I was never supposed to know about?" Amelia shot a panicked look at our father, confirming she knew I had discovered their secret. "That is not appropriate dinner conversation," my father replied stiffly. "I find it interesting that money is only an inappropriate topic when it involves questions about inequality," I said. "But when it is about the bills I pay or the financial emergencies I solve, then it is perfectly fine to discuss." Amelia rolled her eyes. "Are you seriously going to ruin dinner because you are jealous? You make more than enough money. Why do you even care?" "I care because, for years, I have been paying your parents' property taxes and home maintenance while believing everyone in this family was contributing what they could. I care because you have come to me multiple times claiming financial emergencies when you have had access to a trust fund the entire time." My father put down his champagne glass with unnecessary force. "You owe it to this family after everything we have done for you." His words hung in the air, revealing exactly how he viewed my role in the family. "What exactly have you done for me that obligates me to pay your bills indefinitely?" I asked quietly. "We raised you," his voice rose. "We put you through college. You contributed partially to my first 2 years of undergrad." I corrected him. "I worked and took loans for the rest, which I paid off myself." The argument escalated from there. My mother finally spoke up, not to address the inequality, but to try to calm everyone down. Her attempts at peacekeeping without acknowledging the fundamental unfairness only highlighted her complicity. Then Amelia delivered the line that would ultimately cement my decision. "You can afford it. Why are you being so petty? This is what families do. Those of us who have help, those who need it." The irony of her statement, given that she was the one receiving both trust fund payments and my direct assistance, was too much. I placed my napkin on the table and stood up. "I think I need some time to reconsider what family means and what my obligations actually are." I left that dinner early, driving home in a state of focused clarity rather than anger. Over the next week, I carefully examined my finances, documenting exactly how much I had contributed to my parents' expenses over the years. The total was staggering, approaching $200,000 when including direct gifts to Amelia. I then created a detailed plan to disentangle myself from their financial affairs. I composed a thoughtful email to my parents, explaining that I would no longer be covering the vacation home expenses or providing financial assistance. I emphasized that this was not done out of spite, but out of a need to reassess our relationship on more equal terms. I wished them well and expressed hope that we could eventually rebuild our relationship based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. The response was exactly as I had anticipated: silence. Days passed without any acknowledgement of my email, then weeks. My sister sent several angry text messages accusing me of abandoning the family and being selfish. My mother left a tearful voicemail asking what she had done wrong without ever addressing the actual issue. My father said nothing at all. Then, exactly 26 days after I sent the email, I received a text message from my father. No greeting, no inquiry about my well-being. Just 6 words: "The property taxes are due tomorrow." No acknowledgement of my email, no recognition of the issues I had raised. Just an expectation that I would continue fulfilling my assigned role, regardless of how I felt about the inequality in our family. I took a deep breath and responded with equal brevity. As I explained in my email, I am no longer covering those expenses. What followed was a flurry of activity. My father called immediately. When I did not answer, he left a voicemail, demanding that I call him back immediately. My mother texted, asking if I was having financial problems, implying that only hardship could explain my refusal to pay. Amelia, presumably back from her European adventure, posted a vague social media update about selfish people who abandon their families. 2 days later, my Aunt Susan, my father's sister, called to tell me I was breaking my parents' hearts. When I calmly explained the situation, including the trust fund, there was a long silence on the line. They did what she finally asked, her tone shifting. By the end of our conversation, she was apologizing to me for getting involved without knowing the full story. She was the first family member to acknowledge that my reaction was reasonable given the circumstances. I knew I needed professional guidance to navigate this situation properly. The next morning, I scheduled appointments with both a financial advisor and a family therapist. I needed to understand my rights and obligations legally, but also how to process the emotional aspects of what felt like a profound betrayal. My financial advisor, Marcus, reviewed my documentation of past contributions and confirmed what I already suspected. I had no legal obligation to continue supporting my parents' property. All of my contributions had been gifts, not loans, and there was no binding agreement for me to continue. He helped me establish clear financial boundaries and set up automatic responses for any future money requests. The family therapist, Dr. Winters, helped me work through my complex feelings about the situation. She pointed out that my anger was justified, but that I also needed to process the grief of losing the family dynamic I thought I had. We worked on strategies for communicating my boundaries while leaving the door open for genuine reconciliation if my family was willing to acknowledge the inequity and work toward a more balanced relationship. Meanwhile, the consequences of my decision were beginning to manifest. My father sent increasingly urgent messages about bills. The property management company for the Lake Tahoe home called me directly about unpaid maintenance fees, revealing that my father had given them my contact information as the person responsible for payment, despite my explicit email stating I would no longer be covering these costs. I created a simple template response. Please direct all bills for the Lake Tahoe property to the property owners. I am no longer managing these expenses. My mother took a different approach, sending emotional appeals about family loyalty and highlighting all the sacrifices they had made for me growing up. I responded with kindness, but firmness, explaining that I was open to rebuilding our relationship, but not through financial transactions. Amelia was the most direct in her attacks. She sent accusatory texts calling me selfish and claiming I was trying to punish her for being my father's favorite. When these did not elicit the response she wanted, she escalated to social media, posting thinly veiled criticisms about people who abandon their families over money. Some extended family members and mutual acquaintances took her side, sending me concerned messages about the situation based solely on her portrayal. What surprised me most during this time was the number of people who reached out in support. My cousin Jackson called to say he had experienced similar dynamics with his own siblings. Former classmates and colleagues shared stories of their own family financial imbalances. Each conversation reinforced that I was not alone and that my boundaries were reasonable. 3 months after I stopped paying the bills, reality began hitting my parents hard. The Homeowners Association sent violation notices for unmaintained landscaping. The property taxes went into delinquency. Utility bills piled up. Winter was approaching, and the usual weatherproofing and maintenance had not been done. My father finally called with a different tone. Instead of demanding I resume payments, he informed me they were considering selling the vacation home. His voice carried an unspoken question, an opportunity for me to offer to step back in and prevent the sale. I simply acknowledged his decision and wished him luck with the process. "What about all our family memories?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Memories do not require property taxes," I replied gently. "We can create new ones without financial strain." The most revealing aspect of the situation was Amelia's response to the potential sale. According to my Aunt Susan, when my parents asked Amelia to use some of her trust fund to help maintain the property she had refused, saying that her trust was for her future, not for property maintenance. The irony was not lost on anyone that she expected me to use my earned income for the family vacation home, but was unwilling to touch her trust fund for the same purpose. The first holiday season after our falling out was difficult. I declined the invitation to the traditional family Thanksgiving at the lake house, choosing instead to volunteer at a community dinner and spend the evening with friends. I missed the family traditions, but found new joy in creating my own. I reconnected with my cousin Jackson, who had experienced similar family dynamics, and we formed a stronger bond based on mutual understanding and respect. As Christmas approached, I received a surprise visit from my father. He stood on my doorstep looking older and more uncertain than I had ever seen him. I invited him in for coffee, maintaining politeness despite the tension between us. "We need to talk," he said once we were seated. "The vacation property is being listed for sale next month. The realtor says we should expect less than market value due to deferred maintenance." I simply nodded, waiting for him to continue. After a long pause, he added, "I did not handle this situation well. Coming from my father, who had never admitted fault in my memory, this was significant." We talked for over 2 hours that afternoon. "What about all our family memories?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. Memories do not require property taxes, I replied gently. We can create new ones without financial strain. The most revealing aspect of the situation was Amelia's response to the potential sale. According to my Aunt Susan, when my parents asked Amelia to use some of her trust fund to help maintain the property she had refused, saying that her trust was for her future, not for property maintenance. The vacation home would be sold, relieving financial pressure on everyone. Family gatherings would continue, but with costs shared equitably among those attending. Most importantly, we agreed to be more transparent about financial matters going forward. My mother called the next day tearfully thanking me for speaking with my father. She admitted that she had always felt uncomfortable about the trust fund disparity, but had deferred to my father's decisions, as she always had. Her private apology meant more to me than I expected. Amelia took longer to come around. Her initial reaction to the news that the vacation home would be sold was anger directed at me. But as the weeks passed, and she saw that I was standing firm in my decision, her attitude began to shift. After the property sold, she surprised me by suggesting we meet for coffee. During that awkward but necessary conversation, she admitted that she had never fully appreciated what it meant for me to support our parents' property, while also helping her. She had taken both the trust fund and my assistance for granted. While not exactly an apology, it was a step toward understanding. I used some of the money I had previously directed toward family expenses to establish my own priorities. I began mentoring young professionals from disadvantaged backgrounds, offering guidance on both technical skills and financial literacy. I found deep satisfaction in helping others build the skills to be self-sufficient rather than dependent. I also consulted with an estate planning attorney to establish my own trust with explicit fairness provisions for any future beneficiaries. I was determined that if I ever had children, they would be treated with absolute equality. 6 months after I had stopped paying the bills, my family gathered at my new cabin, a modest but comfortable property I had purchased on a small lake about 2 hours from the city. It was not as grand as the Tahoe house, but it was mine, purchased on my terms and within my means. As we sat on the deck watching the sunset over the water, I realized how much healthier our relationships had become once the financial entanglements had been removed. My father and I could discuss current events without an undercurrent of unspoken financial expectations. My mother could enjoy family time without mediating tensions. And Amelia and I were slowly building a more authentic sibling relationship, not shadowed by resentment or dependency. The trust fund still existed, and the inequality of that fact had not changed. But by removing myself from the role of supplemental provider, I had changed the dynamic enough to allow more honest relationships to develop. I had learned that sometimes establishing boundaries is not about punishing others, but about creating space for more authentic connections. Most importantly, I had discovered that my value to my family should never have been tied to my financial usefulness. True family bonds are built on mutual respect, honesty, and emotional support, not on who pays the bills or provides the vacation home. It was a difficult lesson to learn, but one that ultimately freed all of us to relate to each other as individuals rather than as financial roles in a family system. The journey to rebuild my sense of self-worth after years of financial manipulation was not easy. The first months were filled with doubt and guilt. True family bonds are built on mutual respect, honesty, and emotional support, not on who pays the bills or provides the vacation home. It was a difficult lesson to learn, but one that ultimately freed all of us to relate to each other as individuals rather than as financial roles in a family system. The journey to rebuild my sense of self-worth after years of financial manipulation was not easy. The first months were filled with doubt and guilt. True family bonds are built on mutual respect, honesty, and emotional support, not on who pays the bills or provides the vacation home. It was a difficult lesson to learn, but one that ultimately freed all of us to relate to each other as individuals rather than as financial roles in a family system. The journey to rebuild my sense of self-worth after years of financial manipulation was not easy. The first months were filled with doubt and guilt. But by removing myself from the role of supplemental provider, I had changed the dynamic enough to allow more honest relationships to develop. I had learned that sometimes establishing boundaries is not about punishing others, but about creating space for more authentic connections. Most importantly, I had discovered that my value to my family should never have been tied to my financial usefulness. Setting boundaries is sometimes the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. I also discovered that temporary distance sometimes leads to healthier closeness. By stepping back and requiring my family to see me as more than a financial resource, I created space for more authentic relationships to develop. The freedom that comes with financial independence is not just about material security, but about the ability to define your relationships on your own terms. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took your generosity for granted? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life lessons. Your support means everything as we navigate these complex family dynamics together. Remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most authentic relationships. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you courage to stand up for your own worth.